Hey guys, Jack here and welcome back to another video. So obviously Premier League Matchday 23 is just up and we're just going to go through the different games. So the match I decided to look over is the big, top of the table clash between Manchester City and Arsenal yesterday as I'm recording this. So Arsenal self in their typical 4-3-3, having lost Partey to injury, they replaced him with Jorginho, and Tomiyasu was put in ahead of Ben White, who hasn't really been struggling with form recently. Man City stepping in kind of a 3-2-4-1 in this situation, but they when they were out of possession, they typically played a back four where Bernardo Silva would sit back and then Rodri would come into the middle. Gundogan would drop as well on the occasion. What Man City did was allow Arsenal to have more of the ball. Granted, they did have good amount of possession themselves, but they didn't overextend themselves, and it took a while. And you saw how when Man City had the ball, they were quite in control, and Arsenal did struggle to kind of get into the flow of the game a bit. Granted, they had a few opportunities, but I think they did very well. Grealish and Mahrez, in fairness to them, tracked back a lot, and you wouldn't see these two typically do it before. And I think it helped with Kyle Walker dealing with the pace of Martinelli and Saka, who probably had a bit more fun down this left hand side. So we're going looking over the Merseyside Derby, and it was a great game. Liverpool seemed to they turned it on, and you can expect that from a derby, that they wanted to amp it up, especially at home. Everton were kind of knocking on the door a bit. They didn't really have a clear-cut chance until the corner that led to Liverpool's first goal. Tarkowski hitting the post, McNeil skewing the shot, and I think it was in within 12 to 15 seconds, Liverpool went up the other end with a great ball from Darwin Núñez, and he put it away, and Salah put it away. Pickford, I think, was trying to anticipate that Gakpo was going to get to it, but it was very poor, I think, in his space to just continuously go and not set himself. He would have had a chance, I think, if he did, but that's just how it is. And the second goal from Gakpo, good play down the Robertson inverting into the middle, driving with the ball, playing it to Salah, who played it to Alexander-Arnold, cut across, and Gakpo finished at the far post. And to be honest, Liverpool were just in control for the rest of the game. Everton couldn't get into the game, couldn't get into it. I felt sorry for Ellis Sims. I think it's one of his first starts anyway for Everton, and he was isolated completely. Couldn't do anything. I'm surprised Gray didn't start, because he can have a moment of magic, and that could have done something for them. It's very interesting to see how Liverpool just seem to amp themselves up. And they play Newcastle next. It's going to be very difficult for them, but I can't wait to see how they get on. So we're going to be looking at the rest of the games. So the first game here is West Ham versus Chelsea. Chelsea had a very mixed game, I thought. João Felix come back after suspension, combined really well with Fernandes to score his first goal for Chelsea. But they struggled to close out the game, and I think that was a result of some of the players not being up to scratch. I mean, Cucurella was jeered for when he came off the pitch, and Ben Chilwell did a lot more in the game than he did. So I say he'll probably be starting the Champions League game tomorrow or today as you're watching this. And I think West Ham got a good point. Granted, they were at home, but they did well. Graham Potter's under a lot of pressure. And regarding the first VAR call of the weekend, the handball from Suchek was interesting, to say the least. Why it wasn't called, I think it's because he was falling and bracing the fall, so I think that's why it wasn't given. But we'll talk about VAR in a little bit later. Next is Fulham Nottingham Forest. Fulham comprehensive and doing very well. I think they're up in 7th at the moment, flying. And Forest could have probably done more. Probably be disappointed not to do a bit more against a fellow promotion team, but Andres Pereira looks excellent, and they did it without Mitrovic, which is, I think, a huge plus, considering when they were last up, they solely relied on him. So it's important, I think, that they're able to play without him. Next is Leicester versus Tottenham, and I felt like this was just marred with mistakes from Tottenham. First goal, I think, was a bit unfortunate. I think it was a tackle by Valfais on Harry Kane. Ball fell to I think it was Madison or Iheanacho, and he managed to finish very well. But it just mistakes kept being made. I mean, should have Emerson Royale been used, against a team like with Harvey Barnes, James Madison, Iheanacho, Jamie Vardy? Probably. And Pedro Porro struggled, and I think it's because he's still not in, he still doesn't know the system yet, so that'll still take time. Credit to Leicester, won last week, and now they seem to be picking up form again. It's mad to think that, because they look dead in the water again, like they're just going to go into obscurity and just kind of finish just outside the relegation spots. And with Tottenham, these are the games they need to win in order to secure top 4, and it's difficult to see that'll happen. Next is Arsenal versus Brentford. Difficult game for Arsenal. I mean, Brentford broke very well on counters, but Arsenal did get their first goal, and they struggled to hold out for the rest of the game. I think they likes of Ben White had a bit of a difficult game trying to overlap. I think in the last couple of weeks he's been struggling with that, so maybe teams have found him out and that kind of stuff. But Arsenal had heavy possession, but Brentford took their chances, and credit to them. It's going to be interesting to see how this midweek game against City how they're going to get on. Next is Brighton Palace. Actually, I forgot about the VAR call in Arsenal. How that wasn't called for a penalty, I don't know. Sorry, for an offside, I don't know. For Arsenal's, I think it was second. And it's mad to imagine why. It's like they need to sort this out. If if they came out afterwards and said we didn't draw the line, that's the point of having a separate body, completely away from the match day. What they need, the point of them is to be there and to check it out, and they have the time to do that, they have the facilities to do that, but they didn't. And a similar thing happened in the Palace Brighton game, where Estupiñán scored probably the slowest finesse shot I've ever seen, but it was called offside, even though one of the Palace players was keeping him on, but he wasn't considered for the offside. It's ridiculous, but I thought Brighton were going to blow Palace out of it. Maybe if that goal was scored, they could have done so, but it just wasn't the case. Next game was Southampton Wolves. Southampton, rightly, I think, considering circumstances and what Nathan Jones has been saying, decided to sack him, and I think they had to, because he buried the players. He would say, "I'm not blaming anyone but," and then proceed to blame the team for not following his instructions, and saying that Luton, were one of the best in Europe. But that's relative to what he was doing with that club. This is the Premier League, and he just didn't grasp it. And I think it was 10 or was it 14 games that he was in charge. And yes, they had a couple of good victories, especially in the cups, but in the end they couldn't do that, and they got beaten by 10-man Wolves, who, credit to them, showed resilience and fight. Southampton just crumbled under the pressure of trying to hold on to a goal lead against 10 men. I mean, that should be a foregone conclusion in a lot of cases. But Lopetegui has kept Wolves safe, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how they get on for the rest of the season. Next is Bournemouth Newcastle. Bournemouth had decent chances. I mean, had beat Newcastle on a set piece, and Newcastle had their chances, but credit to Bournemouth, they did enough to stop the tide, and Gary O'Neill should be pleased to come out with a point against Newcastle. Newcastle have kind of dropped a bit in recent weeks, but maybe that's because they're focusing on the Carabao Cup final, because I say a lot of fans want to see a cup in their cabinet. I think the first major trophy since late 50s, so maybe they want that, and it'll be interesting to see now how they're going to get on with the rest of it. And then United Leeds. Credit to Leeds' assistant manager again, or interim manager. Did very well in the first half, but the players just lost their legs. I think substituting Harrison and Bamford coming off, they just lost a bit of pressure and a little bit of pressing, and then Leeds just tired out in the end. And Ten Hag making good substitutions again, putting Rashford into the middle, Garnacho getting an assist. I think it was just a good day overall at Elland Road for United. I think it's important, after rescuing a point against them during midweek, And then lastly, Man City versus Villa. City came back and they didn't take the accusations and allegations kindly, and they proceeded to make Unai Emery very upset. But yeah, I think it's because they seem to be back to mojo, and I think Arsenal fans are going to be worried about that. You know how much they rebounded, but considering that they were in the later game, you know, Arsenal will have an extra 24 hours of rest time, so maybe that'll be something, but we'll have to see. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks very much for watching. Until next time, take care.